Hey YouTube, welcome back to the channel. We got some really strong storms rolling into the area here in probably the next 2 hours, so I came out to just take care of a couple things here. I'm gonna go ahead and run through. I've had some people message me, shoot me messages on different social media accounts asking about what am I doing for my blackberry preparation this year. So this past weekend, so just this past today's Monday, so Saturday and Sunday, we spent time out here. I bush hogged a lot, and you can see here behind me, this is where a couple of the large blackberry clumps were that we had been picking off of the past 3 years. Well, they became so choked out by multiflora rose and honeysuckle that I'm trying to clean it all out. But these multiflora rose vines are huge, and if you don't know what multiflora rose are, it's basically a wild rose type plant that has great big large thorns on it. I mean, they will shred you. A lot of people complain about blackberries. Blackberries don't bother me. I pick in a t-shirt, I've picked in no shirt before. They don't bother me. Multiflora roses, they have a hooked barb on the tip of them, and it will shred your arm. Anyway, you can see behind me here where I've bush hogged the hillside off, bush hogged all this back through here behind me. What I've done is I've left rows of blackberries. So last year we picked, I think it was 55 gallon of wild blackberries from here on the farm. And you know, I had set off some rows for us to pick out of last year, and I was blown away by how many berries we picked. Well, I bush hogged down the rows that we picked out of last year, and what I've done is I've set aside all new rows. Now there's a few places here, as you see, on the edge of the pond here on the dam, where there's still blackberries. I can't get to them really easily with my bush hog to cut them down. But right over here, take you over here. See, if you look back this other direction now, I'll show you this. This is what a large portion of the hillside looks like. So I bush hog the entire hillside once a year. Now I do it on a rotating cycle. Half of the hillside basically I bush hog in October. The other half I bush hog in March, depending on weather, sometimes February if I can get some dry days. What that does is that leaves a good assortment of cover for wildlife, like deer, turkeys, rabbits, you name it. Birds, they come in and they feed on all the native grasses I've got here. So this has also got a lot of very young, first year growth blackberries in it. What I did, run down here and I'll show you. So this is my hillside. And what I've got, man, that wind is terrible. I hope you can hear me. And I hope I get back to the house before the storms get here. Anyway, what I've got on this hillside, if you look here, I've got rows of blackberries. So I bush hog this hillside sideways. So I'm on my tractor leaning over the fender well, trying to keep my balance and keep from sliding off the tractor. And I bush hog this hillside side to side. Long story, won't go into that right now. But what I did is down here, you can actually see the top of a calorie pear, a wild Bradford pear. I got to cut that thing down, I hate them. But I've got rows of blackberries going outside hill here. And the reason I did that is this gives me about 140 feet of elevation difference from the top of the hill to the bottom of the hill. And last year what we discovered was the raspberries on top of the hill were protected from the late frost that we got, late freeze that we got. We still had blackberries on the bottom of the hill, but we ended up with about a 4 to 5 week long blackberry picking season this year, or last year, because of the elevation difference. So what I've done is I've made these, if you want to call it terrace, it's not a terrace, it's just rows of bush hogged paths between blackberry plants. And so I've got all this elevation difference, and hopefully what that's going to do is, man, that wind, hopefully what that's going to do is that's going to buy me an extended harvest season so that we can pick more berries and take them to market. I'm going to cut the camera and I'll restart it, and I'll go show you the other side of the farm where I haven't bush hogged yet, and I've got a lot of work to do over there to get that area ready for harvest season. So see you back in just a minute. Okay, so I actually ran up here, so I need to trying to catch my breath a little bit. This is the other side of the farm. This is actually on the top of the property up here on the hilltop. The house is back there. You can probably see it a little bit in frame. Anyway, this is all blackberry. You see it back through there? It's all blackberries. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to cut rows out that's about this size. This is easy to walk in between and pick out of, but back over here, you see what kind of a matted, tangled mess this is? I let this go. I cut a couple rows through this last year, and we were picking out of these, and a lot of these canes were 8-9 feet long and tall, and we were having to grab them, pull them over to pick off them. Remember, these are wild blackberries, so they got thorns all over them. I've got to figure out how I'm going to manage this because it is a tangled jungle in there. But it's loaded with blackberries, and a lot of them are starting to put out, not leaves, they're kind of, the tips of the, like where the buds are starting to form on them, they're starting to form. The multiflora rose has already leafed out, so it's really easy to tell. And as soon as I see a green leaf when I'm on that tractor, I make a beeline for it because I want to chop that crap down. So there's still quite a bit of multiflora in here. There's quite a bit of honeysuckle in here, but I'd say 90% of all this is blackberries. And I've got to figure out how I'm going to manage this. I don't know if I'm going to cut it all out. I really don't want to, because I kind of want to leave patches of thick stuff in here for wildlife, for, like I said, the deer, the turkeys. The deer will bed in this stuff. Turkeys will come through and they'll browse on the berries. The deer will eat the berries. Rabbits will use it for cover and for bedding. You know, any number of things. I've got a couple groundhogs up here, which are actually kind of tricky when you're bush hogging on the sides of these hills, because those groundhogs go in and they burrow out like a little cavern to nest in, to den in under the ground. And if you're not careful and you run over it with that tractor, you know, as heavy as those tractors are, you can cave that in. And when I'm already going out these hills, side hill, last thing you want is to have a cave in underneath you. You can get pinned under your tractor. I actually had a neighbor when I was a kid. Property adjoins me on the other side of the farm, down in where I was actually timber. He actually got pinned underneath his tractor and burned alive. Unfortunately died because his tractor rolled on him mowing these hillsides, and this hillside's full of sinkholes and caverns, and I mean it's beautiful. But it's tricky. It's very tricky to manage and maintain. You can see while I'm at it, you can see the white tops of these calorie pears coming up, the blooms. So right now it's a good time to be looking for that kind of stuff, because the multiflora rose is leafing out. It's going to start blooming soon. And then the calorie pear, Bradford pear, they're blooming out now. So it's really easy to spot them in a distance. You can come in with your saw or your loppers or clippers or whatever and just take them all down before they begin to propagate anymore. Anyway, that'd probably be it for this video. And then just stay in tune. We're going to have lots of farming, gardening, hunting, turkey seasons coming up. We're going to have all kinds of stuff coming up here on the channel very soon. Anyway, have yourself a great day, and God bless.